Hey guys, this is Mr. Arnold. Uh, Today we're going to do our first online lesson. Now, some of the classes have already done this, so if you're in period 5 or period 2, you've already done this lesson. You can listen again if you want to, but you don't have to. I want you just to finish up those sheets that we did if you're in those classes. For the other people, we're going to learn a little bit about factor label. Now, the way I'm labeling these lessons is going to be, this is going to be called lesson 2.1 or 2/1, and that is because it's the second 9 weeks and it's the first lesson. I just thought that would be easier for you guys to keep track of things, and we'll give that a try. All right, so factor label. Factor label is a very important part of chemistry. We're learning the language of chemistry right now. And so we need to be able to factor label. There's a thing coming up that's called stoichiometry. And stoichiometry involves writing the formulas like we just learned how to do, finding the masses like we just learned how to do, and it also involves balancing equations and factor label. And so this is just one little piece of the puzzle. And let's get right to it. Now, factor label is an easy way to change the labels. It's also called conversions. It's an easy way to do this, and this is the way I want you to do it because this is how we need to do it in chemistry. So that's why I'm being very specific on this pattern. So do it like I'm doing it, show the map like I'm showing it, and everything will work out great. So the first thing, let's talk about the mathematical facts. It's based on simple math. The first math thing is anything times 1 equals itself. So if you have 1 times 1, I hope you know that, but that equals 1. If you have 1 times 2, that equals 2. If you have 1 times 1,000, that equals 1,000, right? So it doesn't matter what it is, anything times 1 equals that number. That's fact 1. Fact 2, anything divided by itself equals 1. Right? Even this is a form of 1. 12 divided by 1 doesn't. Now, the number answer is not going to be 1, right? But it's a version of 1. A version of 1 that physically it equals 1. Maybe not the number, but the idea equals 1. Now we're going to use these two things together. So anything times 1 equals itself, and we can make these weird versions of 1. And those weird versions of 1s are what we're going to use to times the original thing, and not changing the value, but then we'll change the labels and meanings of what we have. All right, I'm going to skip to the page. This first page is called page number 1 in Schoology. There's a folder called Factor Label folder. And it looks like this. Oops, that's the wrong one. It just like real class, right? It looks like this. All right, and I'm going to erase what I have here, and I'll show you what I want you to do. Okay, now, first of all, we have to read these problems. I've already done this problem 3 times. I already know the answer. You just saw it on there. If you paused it, it's going to be back on there again, so you might as well just listen. All right, so we have a 5-mile run. A runner completed a 5-mile run. How many inches did she run? Oh, very exciting question. So we need a pattern to follow. We have to work our way from miles into inches. And I doubt if there's anyone who knows how many inches are in a mile just off the top of their head. That's not the point. That's not what we want to do. We're not going to Google it. We're not going to try to just make numbers up in our head. We're going to write it on paper to make it easier to use, okay? Here's my pattern. I'm going to start with miles. Why am I starting with miles? because miles, whoops, let me change that font. This is an awful small area. How's that look? Better? Miles, right? And then we're going to take miles and we're going to change it to what we can change it. Let's look at this little graph here, or this little table. Miles to yards, okay, that's smaller. Yards to feet, feet to inches. That's just how we want to go. So we're going to follow this path, miles to yards, yards to feet, and feet to inches. Okay, I call that the map, right? Because that's the path we're going to follow. And so what you need to do is be able to see what's going to happen and map it out. That's where the thinking is involved. Now, we don't have to do much thinking at this point. We have it mapped out. We just have to make a little table to do this math in. And I call this the factor label table. And it needs 4 sections because we have 4 places on our map. Okay? Now we start with our given, the miles. We have 5 miles. All right? Now, we're going to change that into yards. So you can put yards up top here. And what we're going to do is cross out that mile. So we want to take the miles and we want to cross it out down here. All right? Mathematically, we'll cancel out the label miles. Now, I'm not going to write any numbers in yet. I'm going to do all the work and then put the numbers in after. Now we're going to change that to feet, right? It's the next thing on the map. Now, we can take our yards and we can cross out yards. So we're going to put yards down here. Okay. Now we're going to go to inches. And we're going to have to cross out feet. So again, now you don't have to highlight these. You can just let it play. And we'll just cross out those feet right there. Look at that. Okay. Hey, hard part's done. Only thing we have left now is the label inches. Now we just have to make sure we have the equal numbers, the equal amounts, right? Our versions of 1. Let's put this in red. That'll look pretty. Okay, so here we go. 1 mile. Make sure you get the right number with the label. 1 mile is 1760 yards. Okay? There are 3 feet in 1 yard. Right? Maybe you have to say it to yourself to make sure it sounds right. There are 12 inches in 1 foot. Right? You're not going to say there's 12 feet and 1 inch. So maybe you have to say it to yourself to make sure it works. Now we're going to have to do the math on this. So in the math, we're just multiplying across the top. 5 times 1760 times 3 times 12. Okay, so I'm going to punch that in real quick. 5 times 1760 times 3 times 12. And I'm getting 316,800. And that is inches. Okay, that's it. Now, the maps will be probably the hardest thing for you right now. We're doing the conversions. On this paper, we're only doing the first 5. And I also have made a sheet that is on the Schoology, and it says something like the factor label maps and or video map and help or something like that. It says something about help, or it says something like maps and help. And so that paper I went through and I have made all the maps out. So the maps are on there so you can find the maps, and here's a little version of that because I just made it off these pages. And so let me map the second one real quick, and then I will stop talking because I've already talked for too long. And then I'll let you get to work on this sheet. All right, let's see. So we have kilometers over 20 days. How many yards do they go? So this days thing, that's not important. We want to know how many yards they're going to go. So we're starting in kilometers, right? Always start with the number they give you. and we're going to go kilometers, and we're trying to get to yards. So we need a metric conversion, right? Here's a metric conversion. So we're going to go kilometers to miles. And there's different ways to do this. I'm just using the information they give me. And once I get to miles, then I can go right to yards. And so that'll be a 3-step vector label table where you have kilometers, miles, and yards. Cross out, get the numbers right, easy peasy. Let's see, oh, we have some pound cake for dessert. What would be the name of this cake in grams? Whoa, what a practical question with Thanksgiving just around the corner. Okay, so we have 1 pound. Limits LBS is pounds. All right, so we're taking 1 pound, and we're going to change that into grams. And if I look here, I have pounds to ounces, and then ounces to grams, right? So I'm going to use these. So I'm going to go pounds, ounces, grams. And I should be ready to go. It'll be 3 steps. All right? Pounds, ounces, grams. Cross out. See, if you get good at this, it's not going to take very long to do. And then you just need your numbers. And here's our factor conversion. I don't know what that one is. Oh, there it is. So there's 16 ounces. I knew that. And then how many ounces are in a gram? 1 ounce is 28 point something grams, 35. Right? Multiply across the top. If it's on the bottom, you go divide before it, but that's it. All right, I am done talking. Good luck with these.